Okay, so I got the new Sony digital paper, the second generation, the DPT-RP1, and I wanted to just give a little mini review and some of my impressions of it. I've had it about a day now. I got it yesterday from Amazon, just released. And before that, I just want to tell you a little bit how I plan to use it, what my use case is. Because as many people have said, this is definitely not an e-reader. This is it's replacement for paper. And I read a lot of scientific articles. And the program I use to do that is one called Mendeley. It's great. It allows you to kind of integrate into the web. You can categorize and catalog your PDFs, and then you can actually open them up and take a look at them. But the problem is, it's really hard to read on the screen. It's not great. You get eye strain. It integrates into iPads, and I've done that, but it just didn't work really well. I wanted an e-reader, an e-ink e-reader to be able to read these things long term. So I started with, what everybody says is the best, whether or not I disagreed after I've used it. But using a Kindle Oasis, it is very nice. It goes through PDFs pretty quickly, but as you can see, they are very, very tiny. It's very hard to read these things, and I just couldn't do it. And you can zoom in and make the text bigger, but then it's just, what happens is it's a constant scroll fest. You're just constantly scrolling around trying to see it, and it was just such a hassle to be able to read it. It just didn't work out. So I tried a slightly larger e-reader. I got the Kobo Aura 1, which, by the way, I do think is the best e-reader on the market by now. I'll probably get some hate for that, but I think this is a fantastic one. It's a slightly larger screen. It does make a difference, but the text is still just too small to see natively. Now, I'm kind of zooming in on the camera there, but when you're really staring at it, and this one is a relatively well-formatted paper. Some of them have a lot more white space on the sides that, in order to get rid of that, you have to zoom in. And I will say that's the one weak point of the, as you can see, of the Aura, is that the zooming in is a lot slower and not as smooth as it is on the Oasis. So I can zoom in and it looks great, but I'm just spending a lot of time zooming and scrolling, and it's just a real pain. So what the promise of the digital paper is going to be is that I can just read these things at the size that they're designed to be in, and it does that exceptionally well. Turn this on. So here's, whoops, I reset it here. Oh, I gotta go to date red. There we go. So there's that same paper, the size that it's supposed to be. No scrolling. Everything is the correct size. Everything looks good. It really works out well. And so what's nice about the digital paper is that with this digital paper app, it's actually very, very fast, and you guys have probably seen a lot of it. But I can set it to sync to my Mendeley folder so that Mendeley will organize and rename and set up all the PDFs as they need to be, and it can go into the folder that I actually also have synced to Google Drive so that I can keep it pretty much anywhere I need it to. And in there I have all of my documents, and it keeps them straight for me. So as I add them to Mendeley, they automatically get added to my digital paper, and it's truly fantastic. So as far as organizing things, I wish Mendeley did a little better job with subfolders, but that's not a problem with the digital paper. I can get a little lost, but you can search for things. So that part works really well. There's a couple of problems, though, I have with the paper, some limitations. And I had gotten this based on, I don't have the S1, but based on some of the things I'd read that the S1 could do, that I realized that this one can't do, but I didn't realize how limiting that would be. So one of the problems is there's no way to make an annotation. So you can draw, as you've seen a million times, you can draw all over this thing. But what you can't do is you can't make a note. So sometimes I want to write more information than there's room on the page. So I want to make a little sticky note that I could add a lot of information to, like you could do with the S1. But you can't do that here. There's no way to type. There's no way to expand the space. You literally, the only place you have to write is on the screen, and that's all you can do. Now, if I'm missing something, I'm missing something, but I don't think I am. I've searched through all the menus, and the manual is very lacking, but it doesn't seem to have any information. It supports annotations, I believe, if they're already attached to the PDF. I haven't seen how that works yet, but that could be a problem. That could be a deal breaker. Not being able to, make my notes pretty on the page. Sometimes I don't want to scribble. Sometimes I want to be able to have something nice and neat to look at. Another big problem. I know it's not an e-reader, so that's part of the issue here. If I go to these folders and I go to my Mendeley here, oh, there it is. So good old-fashioned Stryer, right? Stryer Biochemistry, standard textbook, excellent, highly recommended. Going through here, it moves pretty fast. We can get through it, but as you may have seen on some of the Japanese videos, there's a real problem here. I tap on this. Oh, here's my table of contents. No, that's just a list of other things I've already read. There's no way to access the table of contents of a document, which I think is just an incredible oversight. I have no idea why. So, I mean, yeah, for a short scientific paper, you can usually use the pinch to zoom because it's probably not much more than 16 or 32 pages, so, maybe one scroll over. But if you want to look at anything bigger, it's going to be very difficult. Now, what's nice in this case with Stryer is every single chapter heading is actually a hyperlink, and you can follow hyperlinks. So this will take you into the different menus, and so I can navigate this book. I can actually navigate without too much trouble. I can get around, and it looks beautiful, right? I mean, I've tried reading this on those little tiny shrunken screens on the Kobo and the Oasis, and it just doesn't compare. This is just fantastic. But I've got other books. Like this one. And the problem here is that the table of contents is not hyperlinked. So this is just more of a plain Jane ebook. So there is a table of contents embedded in the file. I can see it, if I read it on Adobe or something like that. But here, just clicking on things, nothing happens. So the only way I have to navigate this book is this little scroll bar at the top. And I just kind of have to get lucky where I go and hope I get close to the right page. So I think that's a huge oversight. I don't know why they would omit that. So between the lack of table of contents, the lack of any kind of annotation, it makes it difficult. If I'm just reading papers, it's going to be great. But for really any other kind of work, and it's not just papers, but any kind of large document set, is going to be a little bit difficult to work with. So we'll have to see. I'll have to give it kind of a daily drive here and see what it does. But I'll say the screen looks very good. It works great for reading technical documents. I wish the note-taking was a little better, and the lack of table of contents is a real shocker. Like, I just don't understand why that's not part of it. The other thing I found that hopefully, it may not be a deal breaker for me, but it might be a deal breaker for some people, is they took out the ability to do fillable forms. So if I go back here and I go to, so for my work, and this is just I'm going to just show like a general 1040 form. You can see here, I tried to touch checkboxes, try to hit these fields. In the S1, you could fill all those things out, and here all you can do is scribble on top of them. You can't interact with any forms. And for my work, I do have a couple of customer forms that I would plan to use, I'd like to use, but it doesn't look like that's going to work. So that was another kind of problem. So the three real problems I have with it is lack of table of content support, lack of being able to make an actual annotation instead of just scribbling on the page, and the lack of fillable forms. So, if you're going to have your own use case, that's what's important, if it's going to work for you or not. Like I said, in my case, I'm going to have to try and see if just reading the papers is enough to justify it. I know that's kind of the idea. But if I can't take notes the way I want to, and if I can't have the added kind of work justification of being able to fill out PDF forms, then that might be a problem. So I got it from Amazon, so thank goodness for their return policy. But I think the sad thing is, I think all of this can be and honestly probably will be fixed in a firmware update in the future, just like it was with the S1. In fact, I don't think it shipped with fillable form support and things like that. So, it's just one of those things that's kind of a shame, especially how fast. And that's one more thing I wanted to show you. That's, some people complain about this digital app, how it's not, it's not mountable storage. You can't just drag and drop things. But honestly, sending things over is so nice, and especially if you're reading a story here on the web. It's like, you know what? This is kind of a long form piece. This one probably isn't. But if this is a long form piece, I just want to read it. All you have to do is go to print. And the Chrome one doesn't work. But for the Mac, it's under PDF, and send it to digital paper. And you can see in just a sec, it's going to show up on the digital paper over here. And now I can read this web story. So, I mean, you can send things over so quickly without even thinking about it. You can really make it part of a workflow. Find it on the web, read it on your reader, and then find it on the web, read it on the reader. That is one really cool thing that I think would be cumbersome if you're loading if you don't have that wireless connection, if you don't have that wireless printing option. So that is one thing that is a real plus with the way that they've done the system. I think that the hardware is fantastic. I do like the digital paper app. I didn't do it the other way. I think side syncing is kind of a pain sometimes. I think really just think of your laptop as your server, and then you're good to go. The only problems I really have are software issues that I think could easily be fixed. I hope they do it, or at least announce that they're going to do it relatively quickly. Otherwise, I may have to send it back and then wait until they upgrade it, and then I'll try it again after some more reviews. But I'll probably give an update video after I've really had a chance to use it for a few days and see how it works and see if I find any other quirks. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. And otherwise, if you're waiting on yours to ship, good luck. I hope they should come out soon. And if you're on the fence, I hope this helps you get a little more information to help make up your mind. All right, thanks, guys.